chorus.
Maybe it's the way your body moves when I'm lost in your eyes and it's nothing but me and you in the
So now when you put this on there, oops, sorry, this one here. And now we put the Daniels hook guitars on. LA3As. LA3As on the acoustic. Also, just a little bit of compression. 3 to 5 dB, not even 3. I'll show you what this does. Pretty intense, huh? That's why we only use a little bit of it. Alright guys, welcome back to Midnight Sound Studios, and my name is Tyler, and we are going to dive into a pretty large session today. This one's got about 125 tracks in it. A lot of that is guitar, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's a pop country song. It's actually my own track, and it came out about a week ago as of the recording of this video, a little over a week ago. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to play the release for you so that you can kind of hear. I'm going to play it about a minute through so you can hear what's up. And then we'll go ahead and dive into the actual track and how we built it, how we made it, all that fun stuff, the mixing of it. And here we go. Let's give it a listen.
I don't know why you got me feeling so connected when you're clearly out of your mind. I'm not a fool, I know you played me like Halo, and you have no interest in my life. And yet, I'm still lying here, trying to get you to come over, 'cause I feel alone in my bed. Why did I tell myself I wouldn't? Should've known I couldn't hold back from sending that text. Maybe it's the way your body moves when I'm lost in your eyes and it's nothing but me and you in the TV lighting. Girl, I'm so addicted to you, even though I know it's crazy. I don't know why I try when all you do is leave me craving. When all you do is leave me craving.
All right, we'll stop that right there. That's my song Craving. If you guys like it, I'll leave a link, down there so that you can go check the actual song out. This is a great time for me to say, if this content helps you, please subscribe, please like, please comment. Any of those things, or all of those things really helps this out. This channel is a new channel, and I'm gonna try and grow it. So far it seems like everybody's been enjoying, what I have to offer. As far as audio teaching, and I'm going to keep it going as long as you guys are going to keep watching. So yeah, please do that. It would make a huge difference. And without further ado, let's break open the track. So yeah, I spent about 3 or 4 months recording this track. Worked with a lot of musicians in Nashville, a lot of people in LA, other places. Almost all of the instruments were recorded by other people other than myself, even though I did play the music for the initial demo, which I can try to pull up and show you guys too. So let's just go through and let me kind of show you how the track is built. We'll start with drums, everything in purple here. I'll play the chorus.
Maybe it's the way your body moves when I'm lost in your eyes and it's nothing but me and you in the
your drums. And we're going to go through all these tracks individually. You're going to see the plugins. I'll be able to tell you some of the stuff. All of the stuff was recorded through analog equipment, and then I printed it back through analog before the mixing process happened. Just to give it a feel as if it was mixed through a console, which is my favorite feeling. So here's your drums for the chorus. Let's pop the bass in there. You can already sort of hear the bass. The bass is routed to the drum bus, usually, so you should actually already be able to hear the bass there. got bass. We had a bass amp and bass DI. A lot of times I will use bass amp, a bass DI, but in this case I use the amp as the main bass that you're hearing because the mid range is all coming from the guitar. So let's see what we got. That's bass. Let's solo our acoustic track. We got a lot going on here. So we have Daniel. Daniel I've talked about before in some of my other videos. He's somebody that, has done quite a few different tracks for us. He did a lot in this song. He's doing pedal steel. And I've taken some of it out in spots that I didn't think it fit or worked, but he's got a lot going on here. Got some reverb on that there. Let's see. We got some mandolin that Daniel did here. I got that down pretty low. This is the chorus. More mandolin from Daniel. And then Zach did this mandolin. Mandolin verb, yep, that's pretty self-explanatory. We got the acoustic tracks here for the chorus. We got some Nashville tuning acoustic tracks. Also played by Daniel. So now I'll solo all the acoustic stuff, including the pedal steel. And the bass. Kind of a vibe, yeah. We'll check out some electric guitar just so I can give you the overview of what the electrics are. So all this electric that's muted is Daniel because I ended up using, so all of this electric is Zach's down pretty much here. This is all Zach playing different parts, all this stuff that I highlighted. And then everything above that for the most part is Daniel doing electric, and they both did a actual crap ton of electric. I mean, I really, really loved what Daniel actually did here. Let me actually just show you what I have muted because it's important that you guys know why I have these muted. This is this is the chorus. Got these two. Oh yeah, there it is. So I do use, as you can see, this here, I do use it here in turnaround 2. And I've clip gained the shit out of it also, excuse my French. So we are using some of it, right? But it ended up not working in the choruses because Zach did some Jason Aldean, like rock type stuff in the courses. Daniel went pretty pop with this, and Zach went pretty rock with this. And it's interesting because I kind of thought it was, sometimes it works when you work with multiple guitar players. That's kind of what we're doing here. Is I'm sending it out to Daniel. I'm saying do whatever you want with it. After I heard what Daniel did, I sent it to Zach, and I said, okay, now give me what Daniel didn't give me, and let's put it all together. Daniel gave me really, really good pop, acoustic, and electric. And then Zach added that country rock, Jason Aldean feeling on top of it. So you kind of hear that. Let me show you the rest of Daniel's guitars. So he's got this. We've got a lot of automation in this song too, which I'll have to show you later. A lot of volumes are either clipped gained or automated up and down all throughout the song. Part of the reason that it took me so long to mix this was the automation. You got some other. Let's see. Yeah, see, this is a part where this guitar is automated up to come in like halfway through the pre-chorus. Now we are using this from Daniel. This is Daniel's hook guitar. So this is Daniel doing that, and this is also Daniel doing the same thing, but for the turnaround section. And again, now's a good time to say, if any of you guys are looking to produce, pop, rock, country, any of those genres, I work with all of them. And if you guys want somebody like me to produce your songs, feel free to reach out to us. Links will be below. If you want to connect with these musicians through me or connect with these musicians on your own, you can do all of that through Sound Better as well. All right, so there's his guitars there, so you can hear those. So let's solo up. Let's listen to these. Let's listen to what Zach's doing here. So Zach's doing the intro. Daniel has some stuff going on in the intro also. All this stuff. All right, so there we go. There's the intro. Here's the chorus. Here's what Zach's doing in the chorus. And let's see if I have this panned. Yeah, it's panned slightly. Ever so slightly. There's a lot of panning going on in certain guitars. Now on top of that, we have this, which is these. So now when you put this on there, this one here. And now we put the Daniels hook guitars on. Yeah, so pretty cool. That's the main feeling of the chorus. It's da-na-na-na-na-na. Yeah, I really, really, really love how that came together. It's E.G. Hook 1 and 2 from Daniel, and then these 3 tracks from Zach that make up most of the entire chorus. But there's so much more going on. There's a lot of licks going on in between a lot of these parts. So I'll show you guys that later. Well, here, I'll tell you what. Let's just solo the electric real quick and listen to the chorus, and I'll bring the acoustic in as well. Actually, pre-chorus. So that's this and this. Here comes the chorus. It's just electric. I'll add the acoustics in there. You can really hear how the acoustics fill that out. Now we've got Reed on piano. Again, Reed's a Nashville player. Zach is a Nashville player. These guys play for a bunch of different huge artists in Nashville. Daniel, same thing. He's got a ton of credits under his belt. Ed Sheeran, Camila Cabello, artists like that. And he, I believe, is in Colombia. And if anybody wants Daniel or Zach or Reed to work on your song, if you need to get in touch with them and you don't know how to, I can definitely facilitate that. But you guys can find some of them, all of them actually, on Sound Better. Not all the guys that I work with are on Sound Better, but a lot of them are. That's where I've found a lot of these musicians. John, also from Nashville. He's on bass here. His bass is great. All right, make sure I unsoloed that. All right, so that's the gist of the guitar there. Here is the grand piano. Let's give the grand piano a quick little listen. Some piano. We got organ from Reed. Pads. Solo the acoustic bus with this. got all my background vocal stacks. There's a bunch going on here.
It's the way your body moves when I'm lost in your eyes, and it's nothing but me and you.
They don't sound too fantastic by themselves, but in the track, there's like a bunch of stacks. There's 4 stacks, and then there's some high stacks, meaning I'm doing some effects on these. I'll show you that later. That's all plugin stuff. Same with these. And so then there's then there's some harmonies. We'll have to go through that in more detail a little bit later. One of the next things we're going to go through, because I do top-down mixing, meaning once I have all my tracks with that one, before I start mixing, before I've got any plugins on any of this stuff, first thing I do is I get a lot of my mix bus sounding good, right? Because all the tracks and all the buses that the tracks are already going to, because we have a bunch of different buses, all of those tracks and all of those buses meet up at the master, which is the main mix bus. It isn't always. I have a pre-master here, and in this case, it's just all the instruments, meaning if I mute or solo this, like if I mute this, I'm just going to hear my vocals, no instruments. If I solo this, I hear all the instruments. So all the instruments are going to a pre-mix bus before it hits the main master and meets up with my vocals here. But all the instruments have their own buses as well, right? Like we've got the drum bus, which has different things on it, which we'll go through. We've got, so all the drums have stuff on the individual channels, and then they meet up at the drum bus. And then you've got all the acoustic stuff that got stuff going on that meet up, and then they meet up at the acoustic bus, so on and so forth, right? All those buses are actually doing the heavy lifting. The EQ and the compression that are on the buses are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, especially the main mix bus. Some of this might not be volume matched because I kind of got lazy with a little bit of it, but let's take all of this off and just kind of see like how much this is actually doing to the mix, because it's just, now something I should also say is I do have some analog gear down here, and I print all my tracks through analog mostly, even if I'm not adding EQ and compression, just to, like I said, give it a console feel. Running sound through tubes and transistors and wires and things does change the effect, and there is some of that, sound that you can't get from plugins. It's subtle, and it only adds an extra 5 or 10% quality to the sound, but that matters to me. And so I run every track through my API preamps pretty much, and API 550As. I also have some SSL EQs. I've got some analog compressors, Universal Audio 1176, SSL G-Comp, which is what you're seeing here. Now, I use that on the main mix bus, the analog version, but I have the digital version on for today. But let's go ahead and listen to it without the mix bus turned on, and then see what it sounds like when we turn the mix bus back on. Let's just listen to the chorus.
Your body moves when I'm lost in your eyes, and it's nothing but me and
Go ahead and
TV lighting, girl, I'm so
mute these vocals here. Oh yeah, now let's turn the mix bus back on. That's like freaking cheating. I mean, I've said it before, but like the amount of heavy lifting. Now, you obviously heard the volume jump, and yeah, I'm pushing a lot of volume in the mix stage. I sometimes, it's every mix is different, but in this case, it looks like I had a lot of headroom, and yeah, there's a big volume jump going on here. We do that. Part of that's coming from this. I'm pushing the input of God Particle a little bit, which is the limiter that I have on here. But the mix bus is doing a lot of heavy lifting, and now let's go to the drum bus and solo that, and let's just take the drum bus off. Back on. Oh yeah, I mean, do you hear how much just the plugins on the drum bus are doing, right? Because everything on the drum bus, it's affecting the entire kit. Like, that's, so what I'm doing when I'm mixing is when there's no plugins, when everything's set at 0 and there's no plugins, the first thing I do is I put some things on the mix bus, I get that stuff set, and then I move on to the drum bus. I get the drum bus sounding as good as I can, and then I do the individual drums. So I'll take you through things in that order, okay? So like I said, before I start doing anything to the mix. The mix bus is really the first thing, and the G bus compressor, whether it's analog or digital, is the first thing that I put on my mix bus. Let's just go ahead and play around with this real quick. We don't have too much compression. We've got an attack of 30 milliseconds and a release of 0.1, and that's going to be the slowest attack, fastest release, a ratio of 4. Sidechain filter in the real world, I probably had closer to 120 because that's what's on the analog one, but today we have it on 80. We're getting 3 to 4, about 3 dB of compression. I'm going to turn this off. That's actually really pretty crazy. Like, I love my analog one, but this does the thing, right? Like, this digital version of this piece of equipment, the G-Bus compressor, which has been on, 50%, probably 60% of the records you've ever heard in your life, maybe higher than that, has this specific compressor on the mix bus and other elements of the mix. This is doing the job. You can hear the mix come together when I turn this back on. Let's do it again. Next, we have the Fairchild. We're not even hitting it with any compression. We're just using it for tone. We are pulling some volume out from it. We must have been hitting the red in this plugin, so I probably pulled back on the Fairchild. But we're just using it for the tone of the plugin itself. All right, and this is the Brainworks. This is one of my favorite ones. This is like a mastering EQ. I'm just doing a little bit. We're adding 1.2 dB of their bass shift knob, which is my favorite. And we're not really doing anything else except for the mono maker. I've got that at 100. Sometimes I'll put that at 150. So yeah, mono maker. We probably also have some stereo width going on from this here. We're probably pushing in the course. Let's see. Yep. When I click on the course, you can see the stereo width knob jumped to 135, which is a little trick that I use to make the courses sound and feel bigger. I will drop the on the main master. I will automate the volume and the stereo width of the song. So the volume, right, of the verses is minus 1.2 dB, and then when you get to the chorus, it goes back to 0, which is where most people's masters sit. So my master is actually automated. My master fader is down 1.2 for the entire song, except in the chorus it's at 0. And also, if you come over here to the stereo width of this plugin, you can see the stereo width is at 100, which is the default. It's like having it at 0. I'm adding 35 to 40% more stereo width in the choruses on the master channel with automation. All right, something that I can't remember who I learned this from. Probably Greg Wells. He's one of the dudes I paid attention to. He's a super smart individual, one of the smartest, probably the smartest. Anyhow, he does this or has done this on songs where you just I don't always do it with every song, but a lot of these country rock songs, like, it needs that extra boost in the chorus. The chorus needs to feel bigger, and so that's just an extra trick on top of everything else that I'm doing in the mix. It's one of the last things that I do, though. I don't come through and do this to the song until it's pretty much all the way mixed and automated. All the individual parts are automated. Now, real quick, if I were to just show you, let's just look at just so you can see how much automation is actually going on. We're going to keep going through the mix bus, but let's just see if I can show you. It might. Okay, yeah. So there's some automation going on in the pedal steel, quite a bit there. There's some on the mandolin. We got automation on the electric guitars, at least 4 of them, and then some of their reverbs. So it's actually not as much as I was expecting. It's been a while since I did this. Automation on lead vocal, of course, piano. It's on the organ. It's on the all the effects channels for the lead vocals. I've got something called Noochie Booches, which is an F-read shipping thing that I learned, and it just, yeah, we'll go through that too. We've got automation on the background vocal bus. So yeah, there's some automation going on. Definitely a good little amount of automation, including on the master, but nothing too crazy. Not bad. I like it when I can get my mix balanced without having to automate. But I do have a console sitting here that allows me to automate all the channels at once, so I don't have to use my mouse. I have, you know, a 32 channel board with faders, and I can hit a button and all the faders flip to automation mode, and I can just reach out and start automating anything at any point, and that's a huge part of my workflow as well. But I usually wait to do automation until the end. Let's get back to this mix bus here, because you guys heard what that did. So yeah, we went through this. Black box, let's turn this baby off and back on. I got the mix pulled back. I'm using this in parallel, so I'm not using it at 100%. It's at 71%. It's gonna add some mid-range. My favorite preset on it is, I don't always use presets, but I often just start here. Mid-range glow is just amazing. You can really hear the cymbals come up when this comes on. And it adds some saturation to the snare. It's adding saturation to the whole song, but you can really hear it in the cymbals and in the drums. I mean, it's really nice. Soothe, barely anything going on here. Probably catching my vocals though, because my vocals can be a little poppy. Yeah, barely anything. Ooh, yeah. All right, soothe. All right, coming in clutch. All right, now, okay. This is interesting. So I must have felt like this range, for some reason, needed a boost. This is not a move that I usually make on a mix, but for whatever reason, I put a pretty wide boost right at 75. And now I'm pulling out a little bit of 189 on a narrower Q. And then here I've got the whole song high pass to 30. Sometimes I'll actually do this on I usually do it at a 24 dB octave. Sometimes I'll do it up to 40. And the reason why, and this is the whole mix getting high passed. Like my speakers, I can hear down to like 55 or 40 because I've got good monitors, but not everybody can, right? And most human ears can't hear down below 40 or 30, or 35 hertz. They say it's 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, right? And 20 is down here. But most of the information down here is actually going to be affecting other things, right? We don't want to push the limiter or any of this stuff too hard. So yeah, you're probably not going to be able to hear too much when I turn this off or on. For whatever reason in my monitor, something was telling me to boost. I don't usually boost here. That's not usually, these two things that you see aren't here, and I've just got this going on my main mix bus. SPL Vitalizer Mark III this is. So this would be from Plugin Alliance. Was using the UAD version for a long time, which sounded better than the Plugin Alliance. But this new version, I think, sounds better than the UAD version coming from Plugin Alliance, but I have not tried the new UAD version yet. I'm curious to see if it's like the old days where the UAD version of the Vitalizer is actually a different model and happens to be slightly better than the Plugin Alliance version. Right now, this is what I'm using, and you're going to hear I use a preset on this too, mastering session start. It just does something, and I've been using it, and I probably will never stop using it. Listen to the bass when I turn this on. When I'm lost in your eyes and it's nothing but me and you in the TV lighting, girl, I'm so addicted to you. So that's this bass sound soft to tight knob, which is just magic, and it's a combination of that and the bass comp. Incredible box for Mixbus, and this is a piece of analog gear that I'm planning on getting as soon as possible. This is self-explanatory. I mean, I mess around with presets and then I set stuff. I usually will put it on default, see if there's any presets that give it some lift, put it back to default, and if I find a preset that makes it sound really good, sometimes I'll open this up and mess with it, sometimes I won't. Let's turn this off.
when I'm lost in your eyes and it's nothing but me and you. In the TV lighting, girl, I'm so addicted to you. Even though I know
Back
it's
on.
crazy, I don't know why I try when all you do is leave.
It's doing something.
Your body moves when I'm lost in your lighting, girl.
Yep, C6.
Body moves when I'm lost in your eyes and it's nothing.
We're doing very, very minimal, but just a tiny bit of multiband compression. We're probably trying to, yeah, we're just settling some things down.
Body
Pull this back. I turned this up earlier.
body moves when I'm lost in your eyes and it's nothing but me and you. In the TV lighting, girl, I'm so addicted to you. Even though I know it's crazy, I don't know why I try when all you do is leave me craving.
Cool. All right. So there's the mix bus. You know, that's the limiter there. Not too much going on here. I mean, but this is obviously
When I'm lost in your eyes and it's nothing but
the limiter is what's giving us most of that volume. So yeah, there's your mix bus, and let's go ahead from there and start looking at our drum bus and then our individual drums and what we did to those. Well, I'll talk about all the analog that I put on there too, so that you can hear, you know, what happened to these tracks because like I said, I print all my stuff analog before I pop plugins onto there. It wasn't always my workflow. This is a hybrid workflow. But if I had to mix a song with only plugins, I could, and my session would just look a lot different because I would be using plugins to emulate the sound of analog instead of actually using real analog. You know, yeah, I would probably have an SSL on every single channel, an SSL console plugin on every single channel, because that alone would give us the feeling of running our sound through a console before we start mixing, which is what I essentially just did out of the box and printed my stuff through preamps and EQs to get that console feel. So yeah, let's check out the drum bus. We have the API 2500.
It's the way your body moves when I'm lost in your eyes and it's nothing but me and you. In the TV lighting, girl, I'm
So definitely a little bit of compression, 4 to 6 dB of gain reduction. Looking at a ratio of 2, attack at 30 milliseconds. Release is at 1. I'm using medium tone old instead of new, so no feed forward, we're using feedback. Medium tone, medium knee, a bunch of makeup gain.
It's the way your body.
Yeah, that's adding some power. And then here's your SPL transient designer. Adding some more attack to the drums. Here, let me show you what this does. Pretty intense, huh? That's why we only use a little bit of it. Alright, we're boosting 60 hertz here, 3 dB of 60 hertz on this Pultec EQP1A, and we've got the bandwidth at 3, and we're also boosting 3.5 dB of 3K. I'll bypass this. This is on the drum bus. And as you can see, we have a ton of parallel compression going on. By the way, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different parallel compression things going on with these drums. And if I turn those off, the life disappears from the drums. So the drum sound that we're getting here is a multitude of things going on. Let me mute these just so you can hear what's going on here. Yep, a lot of extra power coming from this. And I'll show you what everything is that's on these parallel compressors too. So, all right, that was, did we go through this already? Nope, we went through this. All right, next on the drum bus after the EQP1A is our trusty old mag. Just using the airband, 40, 3.5 dB of 40. Adds a little sizzle. We're getting rid of some of that frequency for whatever reason. I heard something while I was mixing, and I decided to get rid of that. We're using tape from Baby Audio. And back on. Yep, just a little extra crunch. Ooh, SPL Vitalizer again. That's a good one. Yep, more of that soft. Yeah, really just hitting the kick drum with this. Okay, so that's the drum bus. Now let's look at every individual thing going through. Now, I can tell you, my toms I EQ'd with SSL EQs, analog, right, before what you're seeing on here. And then the kick, snare, and everything else is probably my APIs, right? API preamps, API EQs. And so what I'm doing with the kick here, let's turn this off. So let me actually show you what's going on here. Okay, yeah, we'll actually turn these back on for now. All right. So here's your kick. I'm adding, I've got, this is a sub-synth thing, so it's just adding some tight punch effect to 60 hertz, which you can sort of hear it if I pull it up like that. Kick sub. So these were the actual, oh, there you go. That it was bypassed, that's why you couldn't hear it. Yeah, you can hear what that's doing to the kick. I've got that at 30%. Those are the two kicks that were actually recorded in the studio in Nashville by Steve Brewster, a part of Nicky V's team, who you also might have heard of from Nashville. Nicky V's got a wonderful YouTube channel that I suggest everybody goes and watches if you're looking to learn about music production. I hired them and their team to record drums for me, and this is the second song that they did for me. So after I got these kick drums back from them, I put a trigger on it. There's a little bit EQ on this trigger. It looks like I have the trigger committed, so I probably ran that through the API as well. Without trigger. With trigger. So there's the trigger by itself. And then there's our kicks by themselves. So it adds something. Now I'll turn the triggers off. I'll turn this. So these are samples. The triggers are just kick and snare samples. I'll turn all the triggers off so you can just hear the natural drums. There's snare. And again, I ran this stuff through my API preamps and EQs. And I've also got a retro double-wide compressor I used on snare, and the kick I used a Universal Audio 1176. Got more compression going on right here on the snare. Now I'm going to turn the snare triggers on, which there's two of them, and this kick trigger. Big difference. Here's our snare reverb. We're at sunset chamber. 1.25 second decay time. Looks like 20 millisecond pre-delay. Taking some high cut at 6. We're doing some low cut up to 100. So yeah, huge difference if I turn these triggers off. And the reason you see them in blue is because most of my parallel stuff, anything that's reverb or anything that's parallel, like, reverb, parallel is all going to be blue. I probably triggered the toms also. Let's see here. I can't really hear anything. Probably need to. Why can't I hear the toms? I'll have to figure that out later. I don't know why. Oh, that's why. Because I did trigger them, but I didn't commit that in. That's a little loud. That's no fun. Let's go ahead and find a quick, I didn't want to have to do this now, but I guess we have to do this now, do I? Man, I have that. I wonder if this is even set how it's supposed to be anymore. I should have committed those in, but I didn't. So, in case you haven't triggered before, here's how you do it. You duplicate your tom. Well, in this case, I'm putting it on the actual tom because I'm going to blend it in with this mix knob. You're going to go and find your sample in the browser of the trigger program. Let's see. We're going to use the trigger toms. We'll just find, let's see what fat tom is. Let's see. Not bad. Not bad. I like some of those. Yeah, let's use that. We'll use that one for tom 1. And then we'll copy that over and then delete it for the second tom. And then we'll grab that. Let's see how this is triggering. That'll work for now. We're high passing the toms up to 90, kind of getting them out of the way of kick and bass. We're punishing the toms. The tom bus looks like it's actually going to the just straight. It's the tom bus. So the drums, the two toms don't actually go to the drum bus. The two toms go to the tom bus, and then tom bus goes straight to the mix bus. And we've got distortion happening here. Let's see.
I'm still lying here,
on the tom bus.
trying to get you to come over, 'cause I feel alone in my bed. Why did I tell myself I wouldn't? Should've known I couldn't hold back from sending that text.
Yeah, we got some little labs on there.
I'm still,
Voice of God.
I'm still.
And a limiter, which is hitting a little hard. Let's pull that back. Now let's turn the tom bus off. Where'd our toms go? Tom bus back on. So yeah, the stuff on the toms is really, I like, so when I'm mixing, you know, toms are pretty tough. They can get in the way. They can turn out great. Sometimes they don't. And I like to be able to control my toms separately from bass and kick and the rest of the drums. So that's why I have my own tom bus going to the mix bus. Here's your hi-hat and your overhead tracks. Also processed through API and some analog compression. Nothing too crazy. Here's all your rooms. A mono smash track. Let's just hear the room tracks. Room tracks are pretty boring, actually, on this particular song.
Maybe it's the way your body moves when I'm lost.
Did we already look at snare verb? Sunset chamber for the snare verb, yeah. Okay, and on this trigger here, snare trigger 2, we have some Neve 1073 from the Blackbird collection.
I'm still lying.
We're just adding some 220.
I'm still lying.
I'll turn it off. So it's the low end of the snare, the beef. Back on. Hear that? That's the frequency we're adding. I love 1073s. Listen to that crack. We weren't using this because I have an analog one of these, and I run my snare through that too sometimes. So, anyways, no, that sounds good like it is.
Started thinking that you kinda caught feelings, 'cause you're just too good with your words. But then I woke up alone, staring at the ceiling, and
Here's our claps.
wouldn't, should've known I couldn't hold back from.
Now you got these in the course. This is all stuff I programmed. Claps 2. Claps 3 on top of that. Course 2 cowbell comes in that I played. Tambo. Tambo hit. And cymbals. So Perk verb. We got Studio A from the Rooms of Seventh Heaven. We already went over drum bus. Now let's look at our drum crushes. So the drum bus, right? Everything meets up at the drum bus. We talked about that. And what happens is I send the drum bus to each one of these channels. So basically, we just have a copy. Each one of these drum crushes is just a copy of the drum bus. So it's multiple copies of the drum track all stacked on top of each other. You would normally ask, why in the world would you want to do that? Well, parallel processing is a big thing in mixing. When you take 4 or 5 different compressors, again, another Greg Wells trick that I learned, and he learned it from Michael Brower. This is the Browerize method, another big mixing engineer. And it's something that I love to do. I smash the drums, and I don't do this just for drums. I do it with tons of different instruments, and sometimes even the entire mix. But I take the drum bus and duplicate it 4 times, essentially. It's just a send and a return on an aux track. And we're using 4 different compressors and some distortion on each copy, and to give it different tones. So this is the Chandler limited Zener limiter. Crap ton of compression. You wouldn't normally compress your drum bus that much, but that's because we're doing it in parallel. And now listen to what happens to the drums when I push this. So now I'll mute it. Power, baby. It's the power. Yeah, the parallel compression adds a ton of power. And so we don't want to use just that. So I'm compressing it with the distressor. 4-to-1. The settings there. Fairchild, I'm smashing it with the Fairchild. Also hitting it with Decapitator. And then you got distortion here. Devil Lock is on Drum Giant Sizer. Let's hear this one. Crazy. But yeah, let's just turn all these down and start blending them in with the drums. Listen to what happens. Now let's mute him. You hear how much more power is in those drums? That is the power of parallel compression. And I parallel compress vocals. I parallel compress. Every song's different. On this song, it looks like I set up a few crushes for parallel compression on vocals and didn't use all of them. So, you know, on this one we didn't. But we've got a bass crush going on, so that's pretty much parallel. We're using it is parallel, but it's not. I think I bass crushed the DI, so we are technically using the DI track. It's just I'm using it as a crush, which just means I'm distorting it and compressing the living crap out of it, and then bringing it up next to the bass to give the bass some extra oomph. Let's check the pedal steel. LA2A gray. Micro shift. Oh yeah, and we're going to rear bus. That's an Andrew Shep's technique based off of his Neve console. Everything except drums and maybe vocal is going to rear bus. Oh no, vocal goes to rear bus. Everything except drums is going to rear bus, which is another parallel compressor. And it basically the entire song, everything except drums, goes to this parallel compressor back here. And it's an 1176. And we're blending that in to give the mid-range some extra push. So that's another thing I'll show you guys later. But that's what rear bus is. Everything like is pretty much going to rear bus. And the reason that I have rear bus on the pedal steel and also the acoustic bus is because pedal steel is not going to acoustic bus. Pedal steel is one of those tracks that I decided to send straight to pre-master, which is the instrument pre-master. And so it looks like the percussion is too. These percussion, it's not going to drum bus. You can see not everything goes to drum bus. If anything is feeling a little too tight or it's being clamped down on too much by the compressor that's on the drum bus, that's when I'll take it out of drum bus, send it to main mix bus, and blend it in with the mix that way. And I will do that with anything if it feels like it needs done. If I'm not hearing something enough, I take it out of whatever bus it's going to, and I send it straight to the master and control it that way. So yeah, let's see what this happens when I turn these plugins back on here to the pedal steel. Turn that reverb on. Yeah, that actually does a lot there. Gives it some width, which is what we need. Let's try it again dry. LA3As. LA3As on the acoustic. Also, just a little bit of compression. 3 to 5 dB, not even 3. And now we're going to look at the mix bus here of the acoustic track. Let's go ahead and mute these. Oh, so we're actually dropping some volume from the acoustics altogether with this mix bus. I must have felt like later on after I mixed everything that it needed a little to be controlled, and I reached up. I don't always like to. I ended up doing it anyways, but I don't always like to move the mix bus volume not up and down. So I will pull volume from compression sometimes. I will use this gain knob as this fader so that I can leave this fader at 0. But it didn't matter. Alright, let's start with looking at what we did keep from Daniel. Turn around. We kept those. There's obviously this track here, which I showed you earlier. Put Zach's on top. They sound great together. So yeah. Okay, so we've got some Blackbird Neve on here. This is the, what do they call this one? I mean, oh yeah, the BBN 105. This is an amazing plugin. And guitars, I ran through API preamp and API EQ mostly. Maybe the hook guitars, the ones that say hook on them, these that you're hearing, that I used SSL EQs on. But the heavy stuff that's got distortion on it, I pushed through the API. So that's why there's not a lot of plugins on these. They just already sounded so good. Daniel records through high-end microphones and high-end analog, and I didn't need to do much. Your body moves when I'm lost in your... Yep, just a little bit of LA3. Not even using anything on this one. Leave me craving. Now it starts to get a little deep. So let's see if there's anything else. So here's some lead stuff going on over here. Let's see what's going on over here. There's the chorus. All right, so here is Zach's solo. Some SSL. Sounds great. LA3. Decapitator. And some 1176. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not messing around with that solo. Daniel had a great solo too. Let's listen to what Daniel did for his solo. We didn't use it. We used some of it. Here was Daniel's solo. So we didn't use that from Daniel. What we did use from Daniel was this part. That's actually one of my favorite parts of the song. Let me play that for you real quick without the lyrics in it so you can hear what that is. Yep, so on Daniel's solo here, which we're using half of, we've got more SSL, LA3A. So we already showed you this one, which is the main solo. And then we got another solo going at the end. Also Zach. We got verb and delay on Zach. Sunset Chamber, and we're using Echo Boy Jr. For verb and delay on him. Let's move down to this one. LA3. That is the compressor for guitar. Let's see what this is doing. Let me mute that. Yeah. You can hear a lot of tone come in from this, and I love this. This is based on the Neve tracking console that they have in Blackbird Studios in Nashville. They actually modeled that exact console, which, again, probably about 20, I would say 20% of some of the hits that have come out in the last 40 years were recorded on what this is modeled after. I could be wrong. I'm just kind of throwing that number out there, but I think it's a lot. Like a lot of famous bands have recorded in this room on this console, and awesome for Blackbird deciding to take this and make a digital version of it to kind of save history. You heard what it did. It sounds great. That plugin's incredible. All right, let's turn all this off. Let's see what we got going on here. Oh yeah, we're bringing it some life. So we're pulling out some 128. We're doing a high pass at 65. We are adding some crunch at, with guitars, I'm usually doing, and you can go back and pause to see my settings if you need to on any of these. Let's see, 8. Yeah, we're adding 8K, set a little 7 or 8K, almost 9 dB of it. We're not playing around. We're not afraid to add color. Let's turn this off. We got compression on here too. Yeah, you can't even hear it without this. Yeah, that SSL is freaking amazing. And even though I have analog ones down here, I use these plugins all the time. Don't be fooled. Oh wait, we got to. This is EG10. What do we got? All right, we got an LA3 on there. Okay, yeah, and then we got a slap delay from the Eventide. We got the micro shift on here. I don't know. Yeah, a little slap on there. All right, so these two and that go together. Just some LA3. And then here, for second verse, he has a different lick that he's doing right here, which I'll solo and show you what's going on that lick. Let me turn it off and see what happens. So I'm decapitated. LA3. We're doing the little old 100 hertz boost trick, so I'm not even boosting anything. I've just switched this from 0 to 100, and even though I'm not boosting anything, this is the Helios Type 69 Legacy plugin, and the old analog versions of these used to, when you would switch to pick what frequency you want, even if you didn't boost that frequency, it did already automatically boost the frequency, and it's a trick I use to put some oomph into guitars. It's an F-reed shipping thing that I learned from him. Some more EQ, and some more EQ on the Zach lick. 5K, and we're adding 100. A little bit of 100, a little bit of 5. 4 tracks that you're hearing here. Now let's solo these up here, see what's going on. You got this. And then this on top of that. You put all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them together and you get this. These 3. So that's what's happening to these here. It's going to be some EQ from the Pultec, some Culture Vulture, some more Helios, and some SSL. Let's turn them all back on. Oh yeah, I separated these. Duplicated them and did some parallel stuff on them so I could really push the volume and then lean into the chugs. And here's the electric bus, our trusty old SSL G bus. More Pultec. There's that. We're taking out 600 kilohertz and some 2K. Let's just, for fun, real quick, I'm going to turn all the plugins on the session off, and I want to hear what goes on. That's not great. That's not what it sounded like when it was raw. The volumes are changed now, but yeah, it's definitely... Maybe we should do one of those little commercials. If you want to know how to take your mix from this... to this. Hit me the frick up, all right? Hire me. Anyways, let's keep going. All right. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And also, guys, just so you know, we do live streams and stuff. You know, you probably saw the commercial earlier. There is some content that is on YouTube, and then there's other content that is only on our website, where you can download our stems and actually take our mixes and practice yourself. And if you want to hire us to do a mix for you or produce a song for you, head over to our studio website, and we will absolutely facilitate that. It is not as expensive as you might think. Yep. We've already kind of gone over all this. We've gone over the buses. We've gone over the plugins on every channel. Pretty much the next thing we're left with is going to be just keys and vocals. Let's go through... Did we already do mix bus on electric? Yes, we did. Let's just go through what's on the pianos real quick. Not too much. Didn't really touch them. Didn't really need to. I got some LA2A on the organ, some more LA2A on the pad, and that's it. The rest of it is a 33609 bus compressor on the key bus. A little bit more EQ. We're pulling out some 200 or 2K. And some tape. Let's take, so there's, you know, across the keys there's 5 plugins. Let's pull this back to the chorus. I'll turn it back on. So there's some volume control happening here. All right, let's check the vocals out.
I don't know why you got me feeling so connected.
So before, I did some analog processing here too. I went through, I recorded it through, these days I'm using API preamps, but I recorded it through a Manley and an Eve 1073 and an 1176, and then I processed it through more 1176 and SSL, analog SSL EQ before what you're seeing here. So then we've got more compression from an 1176.
You got me feeling so connected.
Windshield wipers.
When you're clearly out of your mind.
That's what I like.
I'm not
More
a fool.
compression.
I know you played me.
So we got 1176 and an LA2A.
I don't know why you got me feeling so connected. When you're clearly out of your
And
mind.
some soothe.
I'm not a fool. I know you played me like.
And there's a lot of reverb going on. We'll have to get into those. What do we got here? Lead vocal effects. All right, we'll get into lead vocal effects.
I don't know why you got me feeling so
It's this thing at the end of the song.
I started thinking that you kind of caught feelings. I started thinking that
So there's some different things going on. These two are the same. These are duplicates. And I have different reverb on each one and different width settings. So here's one just by itself.
I started thinking that you kind of caught feelings. I started thinking that you kind of caught
Now we'll go to the other one.
feelings. I started thinking that you kind of caught feelings. I started thinking
Retro.
that you kind of caught feelings.
Put them together.
Caught feelings. I started thinking that you kind of caught feelings.
Now we listen to these O's.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why I try when all you do is leave me
So that's what that is there. And now we're pretty much on to the end of the song here. For reverbs, for our main vocal reverb, we're using London Plate from Seventh Heaven. Again, the Bricasti. It's beautiful. Looking like we're taking out a high cut. We got high cut going on at 5K. Low cut at 131 hertz. We got pre-delay at 95. Slap. We got some slap delay. It's an Eventide H3000 on micro pitch slap. I can tell you what that is. Yep. That's my slap delay. I love it. I use it on everything. And we got some width or some panning on the slap delay. That's interesting. I don't usually do that. I wonder why I did that. Whatever. If it sounds good, it is good. Now we've got the lead vocal delay. Got a couple different delays going on. That's a tracking delay set that I really preset that I really liked, that I tracked with, and I thought it sounded great on the Universal Audio Precision delay. Some EQ on the delay, some more width, some whoa. What am I doing? I don't know why I got both of these. I wonder if this was an accident.
leave me craving.
Nope, that wasn't an accident. That sounds pretty good.
Leave me craving.
I don't normally put two Brower Motions next to each other. It doesn't make a lot of sense just looking at it. Well, I got the mix on this one down. So yeah, you know, whatever floats your boat.
Leave me
So yeah, for the delay 1, that's the chain. And then delay 2 is going to be the Eventide quarter note delay with that on the chain afterwards. Now we've got our crushes. Our crushes look like they're being unused. They're down, but Nucci Booches is also kind of a crush.
Maybe it's the way your body moves when
Turn
I'm
it up.
lost in your eyes and it's nothing but
That's what Nucci Booches does.
maybe
When you turn it up.
Maybe it's the way your body moves.
It adds some sizzle or some Nucci Booches to the vocal. And we're doing that in the choruses and in certain parts of the verses. And then here's your rear bus, which
Leave me craving.
Let me just mute
Leave me.
If we turn the rear bus up, all that mid-range stuff comes up. You hear that? That's without it. So you got to be careful, but that's what's happening is all the music is going to this other parallel compressor and we're blending it in to taste. We've got a de-esser, Pro DS from FabFilter just on every background channel. I've got little altar boys. So these in orange, these orange ones, these more brown ones are my actual background vocals, and then these orange ones are duplicates, and I've got little altar boy on them. So like here's the original, right? And these yellow ones are basically the original. Let's see. Oh, I've got this muted.
All you do is leave me.
Right? And now here's the duplicate, which I have little altar boy on. It's a texture thing.
You in the TV lighting, girl, I'm so addicted to you.
And now here's our stacks.
You in the TV lighting, girl,
And now if we take these, let's see what these are. Yep, so we're stacking, we're doubling up and putting a little altar boy on some of that to give it some texture. Yeah, the background vocals sound pretty good in this. Like I said, unless you saw that I had taken it out of the mix bus that was sending it to you and sending it to the main mix bus, all the instruments come to pre-master here, and I just have a little bit of EQ and a little bit of Kazrog True Iron just to give it some oomph. That's really it. You know, considering this is one of my biggest mixes that took me the longest to do, it's actually kind of wild that I was able to get through breaking this down in a couple hours. If I were to actually teach this mix and take all the tracks back to, you know, to flat and mix it from the ground up, we'd probably be here for 10 hours, maybe less. But that's it. That's the gist of Craving. This isn't going to be one of the ones that's for sale as a course on the website. I just wanted to share this with y'all. The song just got released, and I love it, and I want anybody who wants to learn from it, I want you to learn from it. If you like to produce music or you are struggling with your music and you need some help, feel free to reach out to us. Our rates are on our website. I'd love to be involved with anything you want me involved with. We can also live stream for you, and we've done this in the past. We can teach you how to mix through live stream, or we can just mix for you and live stream it to you while we mix it. I'd be happy to do any of that. My name is Tyler. This is my track Craving. I appreciate you guys sticking around and listening to this and being here for this. And like I said, please like, please subscribe. It makes a huge difference to us. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.